Zoë Hodge, welcome to the Right in the Head podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I realize that I start every episode by saying, "How are you today?" as if somebody's going to give me a really long winded answer about what's going on in their life. Suddenly turns into a podcast just about the guest's personal life. I think
Yeah.
it's a British thing. I think we always say, like, "How are you today?" I don't know. I think Americans maybe say like "What's up, man?" or something like that. It's kind
Yeah.
of the same thing, isn't it? It's not. You don't really want an answer. You're
Right.
just
Exactly. You don't really want to know. You're just being
yeah.
polite.
As soon as they
Yeah.
said, "Well, actually, John, there is something I wanted to talk about," I'm like, "Okay, cut, 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 cut."
Right. We're not doing that right
Yeah,
now.
back to
Yeah.
ones, everyone. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today. When we first spoke about the subject matter for the episode, you said this phrase that has really stuck with me ever since, which was doing it cringe. I love it and I want to understand it more because I think I kind of get what you mean. I think it's a very self explanatory title phrase. But tell me more about that from your perspective. What does it mean in the world of screenwriting to do it cringe?
Yeah, okay. So I think there's like two different sides of it. So there's the putting yourself out there side, that I guess like the external part of it, is just, writing and screenwriting in general is very much like you have to believe in it more than anybody else does. And like whatever that means for you, you have to just keep pushing and things like that. And so for me, doing it cringe is doing things that make you feel very uncomfortable, whether it's like reaching out to an email contact who you spoke with like several months ago who never followed up, and like being the person to follow up, even though it's just like, this is very embarrassing. Like, I don't know if I'm bothering you, like, and just having to get out of that headspace, like, you know what? It's okay if I'm bothering you because like it's going to be for the greater good in the end kind of thing. Um, and then is the internal part of doing a cringe, as in like for yourself and just realizing that you have to do some things for yourself writing wise. I think in this business, like you have to decide between, oh, should I work on this passion project or should I work on something I know is going to sell or get picked up? And you just have to do it cringe, I guess. And sometimes it's best to just to write the thing that you want to, as opposed to the thing you know is going to sell.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I think what you're pointing at there is something that I've said a lot in the past, which is try and find the hard way to go. Because when you're pursuing a goal, almost always the hard way is the way that will take you towards the goal. Because the easy way, kind of by definition, is what your comfort zone is telling you what to do. So if you follow that instinct, you'll 9 times out of 10, you'll just stay where you are. So it's that intentionally looking for what's the thing here that I don't really want to do,
Yeah.
but I kind of deep down know that I should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that it's kind of almost like training a muscle. You don't
Mhm.
want to do it, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And I think it is transformative. I really do. Specifically to screenwriting, why do you think it's important that screenwriters should sort of adopt this mentality or at least start to do things that they're not quite comfortable doing?
I think because a lot of like the business, I guess, is they say they tell us like nobody's going to come find you. Like you have to put your like the only way like you can get places if you win a competition or if you do this or but like a lot of those things it's you first. Like you have to apply for something. You have to send that email to that query letter kind of thing. And so I think the more you do it, the easier it should become. I don't know if it's if that's to say the truth for me. It's still very difficult, but like I just do it. Like it just becomes like, okay, like I know I'm gonna feel awkward doing it, but at least it will be done. So like just being comfortable with feeling awkward. And like expect it to happen, but like don't let that stop you. Yeah.
We will get back to the chat in just a moment. Firstly, if you're enjoying today's episode, please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That's a great zero cost way of supporting the Right in the Head mission. Takes you about 2 seconds to click that button. If you want to go the extra mile, write us a comment as well. That will tickle the fancy of the YouTube algorithm, meaning this content shows up for more screenwriters just like me and you. Thank you so much. Back to the chat. Yeah, and you make a really good point there because I don't think it's about getting so good at this that it doesn't feel cringe anymore. In fact, if you get so good at something that you're doing that it no longer feels cringe, you need to move on and do something else that's cringe because you've
Yeah.
just kind of vaccinated in a weird way yourself against the thing that you were trying to do.
Yeah.
You've built up this resilience to it. So there's actually a really fascinating conversation going on in, I guess it's neuroscience ish, neuropsychology as well. They've kind of isolated a region of the brain that helps you to do the thing that you don't want to do. And they found that if you end up wanting to do that same thing because you got used to it, you no longer activate that part of the brain. So you're no longer really training yourself to get better at doing hard things. So even if you don't want to get in the ice cold shower in the morning or go for that run, if you do it often enough, it stops being difficult and you stop learning how to be good at doing hard things. I think that's really harsh
Yeah.
because you're still doing the hard thing that you didn't want to do,
Right.
but it's lost its ability to train you up in that
Yeah.
regard, which seems like a nasty trick played by evolution. But then, of course, that's exactly what it is. It's trying to keep us safe. We're not designed
Yeah.
necessarily to push so hard and be goal chasers. So in your you've kind of alluded to the fact that it hasn't been a journey of now everything you do is easy. You still feel the cringiness,
Yeah.
which is great. Which is great. It shows you're in a healthy place.
Yeah.
What are some specific examples of the times that you have felt that, oh, I don't think I should do this, and then you've gone ahead and done it anyway? Some specific examples that other screenwriters listening might relate to.
Um, okay, let's think. Um, I think a lot of it comes with competitions. A lot of times my friends will send me script competitions and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like I will simply not because I'm just like, oh, you have to, excuse me, you have to pay for it or like the deadline. I'm like, oh, you have to write the essays. It's the essays that really like take me out of it. And so I think like the most recent one was with my previous film that I did because I do writing and directing. And so I had wrote the script because somebody in my writing group wrote a short film and I said, oh, I should try to do that. And I didn't know I didn't have any way to make it. I knew it was going to need like a bigger budget, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to make this. But I was like, I have this story that I really want to tell. And so like the first part of that was just like, okay, just sit down and write it. And so I remember like I just like whatever, like just write it for yourself. Um, and so like after that happened, maybe like a month or two later, one of my friends sent me this competition, and they're looking for scripts from like first or second time directors, and I wasn't going to apply because I was like, I don't know if the script is right, and if the essay they want like specific synopsises and things like that, and so I didn't apply up until I think it was 2 days before the deadline. I emailed and I was like, I had so many questions. I like emailed the people and I was like, am I allowed to apply to this? And they was like, yeah, that's fine. Like answer my question. I was like, okay. And so I literally spent uh like one day just doing every single part of the application. And I submitted it and then I was like, okay, like it's done. Like I can just move on with my life. And then they told me, okay, like a month later, they were like, you made it to the second round. I was like, okay, cool. And I've made to like second rounds of competitions before, but I was like, I've never won anything. And so I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, like it doesn't matter. Like I'm probably not gonna get this. So like I just move on with my life. And then when they said you did the second round and it was like more writing, and then you also have to do a pitch. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like
Oh
the worst thing
wow,
ever. So
yeah, that's a lot of hoops
um,
to jump through.
yeah, and I was like, maybe I was like, I just won't do it. And then, so what my process is with doing a cringe is I allow myself like a day to throw a tantrum about it and be like, here's every single reason why I shouldn't do this, and this is
Right,
so
right.
embarrassing.
Get that
And
all out of your
then
system.
exactly, and then I'm like, okay, like then the second day I'm like, I just do it, like, and I'm still like, as I'm doing it, like I'll either be crying or I'm just like, this is so, why am I writing this? And so like I did the pitch. And I like texted my friends like, hey, can you lend me your voice for this as well? So it like adds to the ambiance. And like after all that, I had to wait like another week. And then like I found out I actually won, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was the first thing I've ever won.
Wow.
And so, but like,
Congratulations.
thank you. And so none of this would have happened though if I didn't like take the first step of like actually just writing something that like I wanted to write. Because
Yeah.
I think if I never did that, I wouldn't have been prepared when this opportunity came along.
Right.
Which is also why
Right.
I think like
Right.
it's good to write stuff that you want to write because you never know when that piece is going to be needed for something. And it's
Mm.
better to be, you should stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's my, that's what we say. So
I
yeah,
like it. I like the expression stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Yeah.
yeah,
And they say that luck is, what is it? Preparation meets timing, something like that.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, be prepared. So you've spoken a lot there very well about how this has impacted your actual craft of writing and got you all the way through this competition. Other elements of the industry where this plays out, I think when you and I first spoke, we maybe touched on things like building a personal brand on social media or making connections in the industry. How has this really affected those things for you?
Um, so I think a lot of times uh you see something that you like you see a movie or a show and you watch and you're like, oh, this is really great. And a lot of times it takes a lot of editing to like, you're like, I'm not gonna go and tell the director I love this stuff because they're not gonna respond. And so for me, I'll do it anyways. And so there's like, if I really love it, like I will find that director's contact, whether it's on like Instagram or Twitter, and I will send them a message and I'll be like, this is just really great. And so with my first film that I did, I saw my first film was Persuasion. It was a proof of concept of a script that I wrote. And that was like my very first script placement. I got a quarterfinalist in Screencraft's True Story in Public Domain. Um, and I was like, oh, I really want to do I saw this film and it was a period piece, and I was like, let me just email the writer. And so I sent her an email. I like found her book that she wrote, and I like searched that up, and I was like, okay, which one is going to go to her and which one is going to go to her agent? And then I was like trying to see if she had a Facebook group. And so I ended up like emailing her, and I wasn't expecting a response, but she actually responded. And on top of responding, she was like, also, there's this competition that's looking for like Jane Austen adaptations, and you can submit here, and I'm on the committee as well. And so because she did that, like I was able to like apply for this competition. And again, this is another one of those like she told me about this, and I had maybe 2 days to finish it, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so funny enough, somebody that you interviewed, Chisita, I had like
Ah,
we're in
Chisita
like the
Giles.
yeah.
Yes. Shout out
So we're
Chisita.
yes. She was really phenomenal. I'm in this like women of color group, and I was like, hey, I just need like somebody to be in front of a camera and do the speech that I've written. And she applied. She was the only person who applied. So but like she was really, really good. And I was like, wow, like it made me feel like, okay, like it's nice to hear my words. Like it's like I wrote this and like it's good. And so we were able to do that and we submitted to this. And so like I ended up getting I think we got honorable mention or something like that in that competition. But because of that, it gave me the courage to like do the next part of it, which was like actually make like a full proof of concept. And then from there, I've been able to go to I've spoken at like Jane Austen conventions. I get invited to like other Jane Austen conventions. So like just from that one email to that writer saying, yeah, just that's so like I'm always like, you should definitely, it doesn't hurt to try. Like the worst thing that they're gonna do is ignore you, which is really horrible. But like they're gonna ignore you regardless if you don't email it to begin with. So like it's better to have said what you wanted to say and be ignored as opposed to like having this feeling that you should say something but like not doing it. So
I feel about this a lot because people say they're too afraid to write to somebody random and just say, "Hey, I liked your work." Because what? Because they might not respond to you, but if you don't send the message, you're guaranteeing the result that you're afraid of.
yeah.
The result that you're afraid of is you don't get to speak to them. Well,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like it's better like because you're technically still in control of that option. Like me not sending some like, okay, I'm in control of being ignored. But if I send it, I'm putting myself out there and I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, yeah. There's a degree
But
of self-sabotage.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
if I don't try my hardest, then I can believe that maybe something would have happened if I had
Hmm.
done the thing.
Yeah.
But if you actually go ahead and do the thing and it doesn't go well, then you've got nowhere to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And then oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, 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 you please. You're the guest.
Oh.
You speak up.
I was gonna say I think as well a lot of people feel like deep down, I know when we email like our favorite directors, we're hoping they're like, oh, send me your work so I can put you on and produce your work and all that kind of stuff. But I think like you're thinking, oh, like if I don't have anything to ask from them, like why am I messaging them kind of thing? Or like they know that we're asking them for something. But I think that it's fine to just send stuff without asking. Like you can just be like, hey, I like this and this is really great and like move on with your day. Because yes, they may not send you a message back asking or like giving you something, but like you're still in and like
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
nice to think to like have that feeling like, oh, like I made somebody's day because
Yeah.
I put myself aside to compliment somebody kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the way I see that is sometimes I get people on LinkedIn or in my email inbox emailing me. I would say, I guess you would use the term unsolicited. I haven't requested it. And it's something random like, I saw your website and it's great. I'm an SEO expert. Do you want to work together on your website? Or I saw your YouTube channel. You could be doing better and I'm a, YouTube expert. And I have never requested any of these things, but you know what I do? I immediately just hit delete and I don't have any hard feelings about the person that sent me that. Because
Yeah.
they're just trying to hustle. They're just, look, it's not right for me,
Yeah.
but I don't have anything against that person for sending that email. So when I send emails to producers or developers, whoever, even if they haven't asked for it, I think chances are they're going to delete this, but they're not going to hate me for sending
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
They're not going to like take out some personal vendetta against another writer that sent them a blind email. And look, the
Yeah.
chances are not good that it's going to go anywhere, but you have to take every chance you can in this
Mhm.
industry. And
Yeah.
for that 1 in 100 that does lead to something, it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Doing it cringe.
Yeah,
Doing it
exactly.
cringe. And it's true because every time I hit the send button, I go, oh,
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
oh, I don't know if I should
Yeah.
have said that. Um, how do you balance doing it cringe with not just outright annoying people? Because there is a fine line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's your thoughts there? How do you know when you're taking it too far?
Um, well, I think it helps to like ruminate on it for um like if you're gonna let's say you want to send an email to somebody and you're like this there be perfect like don't just do it on impulse. It helps to like sit with the feeling and like okay what am I gonna get out of this, or what am I hoping to get out of this, and then how am I gonna like feel if I don't get this, and what if it doesn't get like happen, like to make these other scenarios as well as create backup plans. And I think it like for me anyways, it helps me generate like a healthy sense of fear. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna leave it and I'm gonna forget about it for a month. And I have like a spreadsheet like where I keep track of stuff. So and I'm like, okay, if I don't hear anything back ever, I'm not gonna respond. Like I'm just gonna take that as a hint. Like I know these people are busy, and which is why it's helpful to have so many options because like you don't feel as bad when you get as opposed to like putting all your eggs in you waiting for this one person to respond. It's like okay, well 20 people didn't respond to me, like that's fine, that doesn't matter. And so yeah, so like I will leave it, and then if they do respond, I had recently some director who like I had got us connected, and then they responded to one email and then was like, oh, like, well, this isn't right for us, but we can still meet. Um, and then they didn't respond after that, but they only sent the first email after I sent my prodding email, and so I was like, okay, like I'm right now I'm going back and forth between if I should respond or like prod them again for that meeting because I know like sometimes you can just get the vibe like people are just doing it to be nice kind of thing, but they don't really you're not the best fit for them. So I probably would just like leave this connection alone for now. But it's just like it's really just going back and forth between um reading the other person, which is difficult over email, but like think about what like what you had to do to get to this process to even get and like connected with them, and then think, is this really the connection that I need to be chasing completely, or should I like divert my attention onto the
Mm.
other?
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the reasons I'm such a big, big, big fan of going to events and meeting people in person.
Yeah,
The way that I met my manager, I spent probably 10 minutes talking to him on an actual night out networking event type thing. We made each other laugh a few times, so you could tell there was sort of a good vibe. That gives you permission to email them as much as you want. Like
yeah,
that's you know who that person is, they know who you are. There was an immediate connection there. If I hadn't done those 10 minutes at an actual event, I don't know that I would have had the courage to just email him my
yeah,
work and say, "Are you looking for writers?" Because
yeah.
there's just such a different vibe to doing that. I honestly do believe just try and get in the room with people. Just go to
Mhm.
events, go to performances, go to wherever they might be, whoever you're looking for, figure out where they might be in real life
Yeah,
and try and get some face-to-face time with them.
yeah.
It makes such a big difference. I'm connecting the dots here because that's one way to
Mhm.
make sure that following up with an email doesn't annoy them. For some reason, if you've met them in real life,
They're like they're
it
fine.
kind of gives you permission to just send them an email and be like, "Hey,
Right.
or follow up with them on LinkedIn." You know, it's so much
Yeah.
more likely to go well if you've had some FaceTime to start with.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think to add on to that, it's very important to like another doing a cringe is going by yourself. And not only that, but take your headphones out. Like for me, it's very I've started doing this thing now where like if I'm walking somewhere or like going to an event, I will not have my headphones in just because I think people are more likely to approach you if you don't have your headphones in, or like it makes you feel like feel more open. And plus like you're
mhm.
feeling very awkward because you don't have like your grounding thing. So like for me, I'm like if I go to a place, I'm like, okay, like my goal is to talk to three people. I'm trying to talk to people and get out because I'm like I don't have my headphones. And so that does make me meet new people faster because I'm like on a mission, like on
Mm.
a more clearer mission, I guess.
Wow. What's really interesting about that is that I've never considered going to an event with headphones in.
Oh.
I've seen other people doing that and I've always wondered like why would you be at a networking event with headphones
Right,
in?
headphones in, right?
That just doesn't compute to
Yeah.
me. So talk to me about that actually. Help me to understand that. Is it a safety mechanism? Is it just something that you grew up doing and now it's hard to remove from? Where does that come
Um,
from?
I think it's like so like for me, like when I'm in New York, like if I'm on the public like the train, I'll just have my headphones in. And then when I
Hmm.
walk into the space, I will still have them in because
Okay.
like I've already had them in. And so like I'll take them out outside and I'll walk around outside without my headphones on to just like prepare myself to speak to people. Because like for me, like speaking to people, like I used to be like very, very, very bad at it. And then I took a class in college, an interpersonal speech and communication class. And so now I can have like I know how to do small talk a little bit better and like to initiate conversations. But it still does like take me a second to like switch my thinking over. And so I think like some people that when they have headphones in it's just because like it's like they're just stressed. Like especially if you're by yourself, it's like this is like the worst thing ever. Like but yeah, I mean you can it's if you take them out and it's okay, I'm only gonna have them out for 20 minutes. I'm only staying for 20 minutes. Like you're 99% of the time you're gonna stay for longer. Just because you're gonna end up meeting somebody that you're like very interested in and like you guys go have a genuine like conversation.
Yeah, this is one of the things that makes me laugh about networking events because you can tell the writers in the room. If you're at a networking event for general entertainment industry, there's the actors that are just talking, talking, talking,
Yes.
talking, and the
Yeah.
writers are like, I don't do small talk.
Yeah.
I'm cerebral. I build worlds. I develop characters. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about what happened on the Kardashians last week. I don't care what Kanye's up to. I'm using really out of date references now, but that's how
Yeah.
bad I am at this.
Yeah.
I can't even pretend to do a parody of it because I'm so
Yeah.
bad with it. Like, do you want to talk to me about a script or a project? Because otherwise, what are we doing
Right.
here?
No, that's literally, yeah.
I want to go back to my dungeon and keep writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I get that. And I think some people, if they're not using the headphones as a crutch, maybe they're using alcohol. They go to a networking
Mm.
event. First thing they do is go to the bar.
Yeah.
slam back a couple of drinks, and now they've got their beer coat on and they're comfortable, and
Yeah.
now I can make conversation.
Yeah.
So if you're like me and I don't drink very often anymore,
Yeah.
that gets a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
we're kind
that's where you get
of
the buffer drink. The I get always get like a glass of water, but I'm like, hey, can you pour it in a champagne glass? It looks like it's something. But yeah,
the
because
buffer drink. I like that.
yeah.
I'm stealing that one. Yeah, for me it's just a glass of sparkling water, and I just say,
Yeah.
can you put ice and lime in it so it looks like a vodka tonic or
Oh,
something?
smart.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Or if I'm being really naughty, it might be a mocktail, but it's
Yeah.
just
I love a
too
Shirley
much
Temple.
too much
So
sugar though. I don't. Anyway, well,
yeah.
this is really not the subject up for debate. We've covered
Yeah.
mocktails somehow on an episode of Doing It Cringe. So I have to ask this question. It's a fun question. Take it in a fun direction. Has this ever gone wrong for you? Have you ever done something that was cringe and then thought, actually, that was really cringe. I should not have done that? Were there actual repercussions?
Hmm. I don't think there's anything that's been like a long lasting repercussion. Like nobody's been like stop emailing me or like that kind of stuff. Um, so I think I'm trying to think. I think the most like cringe I've had like a couple. Actually, no. I will say, okay, so with back with the persuasion project, with the full script. So like as I emailed that first writer, I also emailed the writer of the I emailed the writer of the book and the writer of the script. And they both responded. The writer of the book sent a long message, and then the writer of the script, uh, she she emailed me saying like we can meet or something because we had like another connection somehow. And she's like, like I have this production company, like, and I was like, oh, like I know your production company because like I've done research. And so like we met, and as we were on the call, she was like, I could tell that that was very new. So I should have been picking up more on the cues that like she wasn't really interested in the project. And I was like, oh, but I just kept going. And I was like, oh yeah, like you can read, I can send you my script and stuff. And she's like, okay, yeah. She said you can send it. She said, but don't send it until I send you our like NDA agreement or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
Hmm.
Um, and then,
Classic.
yeah, exactly. And she was telling me like, oh, we try not to produce things that we've already produced or similar things. And I was like, well, my project's very similar, so you can produce it. Like that's like the I was like, I was not picking up on the cues that she was like, we're not gonna do your project because we just did a similar
Hmm.
one.
Hmm.
And so when she said like, oh, I'm gonna email you the NDA, I was like, okay, great. And then we left the call. And like immediately after, I was like, she's not emailing me. And like she never emailed it to me. And I was just like, oh, it's very embarrassing, but like even now, like I've completely forgot about it because there's been so many other embarrassing moments kind of thing. So like, yes, it was very embarrassing in the moment, but like you're gonna forget about it because there's gonna be other moments that will either trump and plus it's like it's years later. Like I don't regret doing it because it was like I tell myself it's just an experience. It's a learning experience. And I try to look at the positives and like like at least I got a meeting out of
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. Well,
But
this is
yeah.
one of the reasons I asked the question is because when I say were there any actual repercussions, one of them would be you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about doing it cringe. It's yeah, it could go a bit wrong, but have a sense of humor about it and learn from it and move on because it's
Yeah.
not going to be the last time. If you're going to get winded from doing it once and it going wrong and then deciding I'm never going to do anything risky ever again,
Yeah.
just give up now because
Yeah.
this is an industry that kind of requires you to be a bit risky, deluded even.
Very
Otherwise, what are we all doing here? The one that comes to mind for me, the one that I still kind of when I remember it, I was early days as a writer talking to a potential lit manager, and she introduced me to a couple of her current clients just so I could read their scripts and learn a bit more about the whole industry and what pro writers were doing. And so I started a sort of an email back and forth with these two other writers. And I'm long, long, long history in marketing, entrepreneurship, business development. So I'm very used to kind of mapping out strategy. And I sent them this email that told them exactly what I was going to do, how long I predicted it would take, sort of a step by step plan, and how I was going to do this, that. And I didn't hear back from either of these two writers. And then eventually I heard from the manager, and she was like, You made them feel really uncomfortable by emailing them that kind of stuff. Like, people in this industry don't talk like that. I'm like, wow, I had
Yeah.
no idea that it could be interpreted like that.
Yeah.
And both of these writers that she introduced me to were younger than me and female, and I just felt like such a
Yeah.
douche at that point. I'm like, oh man, it really wasn't supposed to come across like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a nasty one. That was I
Yeah.
read you get those emails and you read them and your heart speeds up. And you're
Yeah.
like,
And it's like, oh my
oh,
gosh.
oh
It's like I was
no.
not my best. I was not doing my best communicating during that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really knocks me for six. I really felt bad for a few days after that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, do I reach out to the writers and apologize, or does that
Yeah,
just make it worse?
exactly.
Does that just make it worse because I'm
Yeah.
still emailing them?
Yeah.
If they ever happen to listen to this episode and they know who they are, I apologize. It was not my intention to freak you out. I was trying to be a businessman. So wrong timing for that. Let's think. What have we covered so far? I think we're doing a great job of unpacking the world of doing it cringe. Why do you think that people struggle? Let's keep it specific. Why do you think that screenwriters struggle with this mentality? Because hearing this, it makes sense, and they might get fired up to go ahead and do that, but there's still that reticence. Is it, the industry we're in? Is it the pressure we're under? Where do you think this hesitance comes from?
Um, I think because like screenwriters in general and like writers, like we're very like intrinsic people. Like, yes, it's like, they say you need to be impersonable, like with how when you deal with these things and like just let it slide off your back because it's not nothing's personal. But like as a writer, everything is personal. Like you are like coming up with these ideas and like creating these characters for like months, and like these are like your kids. Like you love them so much, and then to have to like force yourself to like give it to somebody, even if like you have to either A, like show them how much you love them, like love these characters, and then like when the response isn't what you want, it's like you start to think like, oh, did I not do a good job at like showcasing how much I love my characters? Or maybe I don't love my characters as much as I should, or like maybe they're not good. And like you start to like think in your head that like it's something that you did wrong, because like they're your characters. So it's like if you don't get it, it's not like I'm not gonna blame you for not getting my characters. I'm gonna blame me because I didn't do a good enough job at making you get it, which is not good. And I don't think that that's like no writer should not do that. But I think it's just like a natural instinct for us because
Mm,
like we spend so long with these characters to begin with. Like,
yeah. Yeah, we're under a lot of. It's a weird sort of pressure. Like you said,
yeah,
that everybody in the industry says it's not personal, but I got feedback on a script once upon a time that said this is great. I don't think we need this certain character. We could probably do this story without this character. It's like you've basically just said this is not personal. We just need to kill one of your children.
yeah, exactly.
Kind of feels personal.
Yeah,
So you do have to take that and look for the note within the note, as they always
yeah,
say.
yeah,
So what that note really was is there's a bit of fluff in this story that we
right,
can probably cut back on.
yeah,
But I do think that leads to this feeling of I don't want to go too far out of my comfort zone. I don't want to bother people. I don't want to push back against that because these are the producers, these are the
yeah,
developers. I don't want to, stand my ground too much because I'm just a writer. There seems to be
yeah,
that mentality, doesn't there? Like, oh, I'm just a writer. Writers are the only people in the industry that create something from nothing.
exactly,
We are
exactly.
the
We're
we
the
are the
backbone of the
we are the
industry.
instigators of everything that's to follow.
Yeah,
And that's not to take away from anyone else because
yeah,
directors, actors, producers, everybody does an incredible job, but they're all working from a script.
exactly. Yeah,
So just a writer, that should not appear in your inner monologue at any time.
yeah,
Anytime. One of the reasons I
yeah.
do this podcast, I really want to get that message out there to other
That you're more
writers.
than this. Yeah. And also I
Yeah.
think because opportunities are so far and few, like when you do get one, you're like, okay, like everything you say, I'm gonna do whatever you say because I don't know if I'm gonna get this again. Um, and I think like yes, this opportunity may not come again, but maybe a better opportunity that fits you more. might come again. And if this is the perfect opportunity for you, the person that you're pushing back against, like if they want you to do something that you feel like I shouldn't do this because like this really is necessary for the script, like they won't mind you like pitching why you should keep this character because like they love the story as much as you do, and that's how you know it's like a perfect connection. But if they're very like, oh no, like you have to do what we say kind of thing, and it just doesn't connect with you, no matter how much you try to fight for these characters, and you really genuinely feel like it, then it's probably not the best
Yeah.
fit for you.
Yeah, and something that I've done more recently in rounds of feedback, I don't know if this is. I don't know that I would advise everybody to do this. I have a good relationship with my manager and the producers I've worked with, so this works for me, but use with caution. I will send them, they'll give me the notes, I will address them, and then I will send them the revised script with a separate document, which is just a PDF, like a Google Doc, and I will just bullet point the changes I made that very much align with their feedback, and then the bits of their feedback I didn't change or I did change but not quite in that way, with a brief explanation of why.
Yeah.
So I see your point about XYZ. I didn't quite do the solution you told me to do because that would have had this impact. So instead I did this because insert reason here.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the people that have read that kind of thing are like, oh, I see what you, and they appreciate that you actually did look at the notes and address
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Because I don't think they want to necessarily be right about everything. They just want the best script.
right.
So
Yeah,
if you can justify your changes, then you're not gonna, again, for most people, you're not gonna upset them.
yeah,
Handle with care, because there are some
yeah.
people out there that would just read that and be like, "Why is the writer telling me what my
What to
feedback
do.
should be?"
Exactly right. This is a case by case basis.
It really
Yeah,
is. But like
yeah,
to your point, if they do get back to you and say this is nonsense, how dare you? Then do you really want to work with those people?
right. Yeah.
I think we're living now in an age where writers are able to speak up a bit more, especially if they can articulate why they're doing it a certain way.
Mhm.
Maybe days gone by, there was a bit more brutality, and yes, you could just get laughed out of a room. I
Yeah.
don't hear as many stories like that these days.
Yeah. And also I think like you said, like it's very helpful to at least think about their suggestions because I know when I was in school we had like feedback writing groups and stuff and like I'd spent like hours doing feedback for people and they get the feedback and they just like ignore it completely and like it's like you can tell that they don't read it at all and then you just it's like oh like you just wasted my time kind of thing and so I think like you said like looking at their concerns and saying like, okay, here's why I did part of it, but I didn't do all of it, and here's why. Like it makes it seem like you did try and like you are taking into consideration like what they say, even if you don't completely
Mm.
go with it.
And yeah. I mean, just if I was to write a book about how not to be a screenwriter, I think chapter one would be ignore feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just ignore it. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. You seem to have this attitude towards life in general, which I resonate with, which is give it a try, get in there, get a bit messy, take a risk. It's going to hurt, it's going to be cringe, but do it anyway. Have you always had that, or has that come from being a screenwriter?
Um, I feel like I've always had that. Like if I want something, I know like I'm gonna do everything I can to get like for me, I'm like I want to make sure I've exhausted every opportunity before I like fully give up on something. Like I know w when I was really young, like we moved states and I wanted to go to this school, but like it wasn't in my school district or whatever. And I like emailed the principal and I was like, hey, can I please come to your school because I'm this and this and this. I mean, he still said no, but like at least I
Oh, I
felt
thought that
like,
was going to
okay,
be a happy story.
no. But I'm just like, I'm like, at least I tried. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather try and get that confirmed no versus like don't try at all. And then I'm just like, oh, I what like spending the rest of my life what like having what ifs and regrets and like all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
do think screenwriting helped me explore more. Like I
Yeah.
feel more at peace with knowing I'm going to get embarrassed at times now.
Screenwriting will toughen you up for
Yeah.
sure. which is a strange thing to say because it involves mainly sitting at home working on a laptop. It's like,
Yeah.
but it puts calluses on your soul, I swear.
Yeah,
It really does.
yeah. Yeah.
For me, the journey for this toughening up has been gradual. And I think
Hmm.
it's growing up as a British person. Our culture is quite reticent, it's quite prudish in some ways. There's so many taboo subjects. We don't really talk about money, we don't really talk about sex, we don't really talk about anything that's borderline naughty or awkward for other people. So British conversation typically exists at quite a surface level. We're great at just making wisecracks, making jokes, never really going beneath the surface. That's our. We'll talk about the weather before we'll talk about somebody's trauma. So growing up like that, I wasn't good at asking for what I wanted. The weird thing for me was I realized I was very good at getting what I wanted without asking for it directly because I was good with things like sales. I did sales as soon as I left school. I was really good at sales because I can talk. I have the gift of being hyperverbal. So using that, using language, using persuasion, I never had to just make a direct request for anything. I could just move the pieces around the chessboard and get what I wanted. And I thought that was my superpower for a long time. And then only honestly in the last few years, I started to think, hang on a second. All of this manipulation I'm doing, it's it is a skill in a way, but it also means I'm not practicing just asking for what I want. And it really hit me like, oh, I should probably get better at that rather than getting better at essentially lying to people to get what I
Yeah.
want from them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that superpower anymore. So that's
Yeah.
been interesting. I read this really, really powerful book called Be Less Nice, I think it's
Mhm.
called. And it makes this, I can sum up the book in a single sentence, which was the one that really grabbed me. It was the opposite of being nice, isn't being nasty, it's being truthful. I just landed so heavy with me because I'd been so nice to everyone
Mhm.
because I was afraid to just be honest.
Yeah.
And it really landed with me and made me think, yeah, I need to be more truthful. Not nasty, but truthful. And so I
Yeah.
started to just make more honest demands of people. I really need you to do this thing for me, or I would really like you to read this script, or I'd really like to meet you and talk about representation.
Hmm.
Rather than, hey, did you catch that game last night? And you know how people do
They're like,
that?
oh, also, did you do this right? Yeah.
You kind of like take a roundabout way of getting to the thing that you really want to do.
Yeah.
That for me is a different type of doing it cringe. Now I see people doing that, like, just ask the question, dude.
Yeah.
Just ask the question. Like, what's your favorite color? Where did you go to school? Like, okay, what do
It's
you
like,
want from
you don't
me?
really care about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if I said my favorite color is black and I went to a school of Satan worshippers? Would you still be talking to me right now?
Right.
Would you walk away? So why don't you just ask me the question you want to? You don't care about me.
Right.
Anyway, we're getting cynical. Um, we shouldn't be doing that. So let's bring this one back to. I love to do practical takeaways on this show. I think if people listen to this and go away with something they can actually implement, that's great. Mission accomplished. So let's imagine there's some screenwriters listening to this conversation. I hope there are, and they're thinking this sounds great, but I'm still a bit shy, a bit nervous to do this kind of thing, to put myself out there. Which, by the way, I know a lot of screenwriters, and it's true. For some reason, there's a lot of shy screenwriters. I think that's what pulls them towards this craft because they don't have to talk to anybody when they're writing. What would be the first steps? In your opinion, your advice, what would be the first steps to start coming out of their shell just a bit and start to do things just a tiny bit cringe?
I'd say okay. I say two different things. I say to find people who you like and just ask them to like for me, creating a writing group was very helpful for me because I have a place where I can go get feedback from that I know they're going to be honest, but I trust them that like I still feel like they're being nice to me when they're giving me like honest feedback or truthful feedback. And so I think number one is to find a writing group, and that can be either to like what's it called? Uh it's just like it was very popular during COVID. It's like online meeting groups and they have like a bunch of Meetup. That's
Okay.
meetup.com.
Yep.
And the
Meetup.
and I would say go to a bunch of them. Like, don't go to one and then be like, oh, this is bad. I'm never gonna do it again. Like, try out a bunch of them and like, don't be afraid to leave it if you don't like it. And just because you might like one person and everything else you don't like, just leave and keep in contact with that one person and like keep going until you find or until you're able to create a group that you like. And if they have like in-person groups, for me, I tell myself I have to do one public event or a public outing a month. So like in terms of like I have to go out and like meet new people and it's very difficult. But like I know for sure I'm like, okay, I'm gonna meet somebody new this month. I don't know who or how, but it's gonna happen. And so like I look for social events or like if my sister's friend invites me out somewhere, like I have to say yes because it's on my list. Like Shonda Rhimes' is a Your Yes book. I read that like so many years ago, but it was very like I was like, oh, like you can say yes in your own way. Like I know in her book she was talking about she hates doing public interviews, but she had to say yes. So she was like, oh, like, can we do like a closed studio public interview? And she ended up doing that, and like it was still her saying yes. So I think there are different ways to meet new people without the stereotypical like going to a bar or going to a club. Like, you could go to the library and don't have your headphones in and like talk about books with the people around you. And like you don't know, like I met some people and like they end up being like other writers that I who like I'm like, oh, like we usually come to my writing group or like people who like are into the same things as I can, like I'm able to bounce ideas off of them. Like you never know who you're gonna meet. You just have to put yourself in spaces or put yourself even just in the mindset of being open to meeting new people.
Yeah, yeah. And what I love about that is that you get to understand that you're not in this alone.
Yeah.
You speak to other screenwriters and they talk about the same things that you do and what they're struggling with and the pushbacks that they've had and those cringe moments. And you realize, oh, I'm not a crazy person.
Yeah.
It's quite normal to fluctuate 10 times a day between thinking I'm the best screenwriter in the world to I'm never going to succeed at this. Like,
Yeah.
that's normal. That's normal
Yeah.
writer's mentality. You don't know that until you get out there and meet other writers. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't even have to be a networking event.
Hmm.
You could go to a performance, go to a screening. They
Yeah.
normally have a bit of networking time afterwards, just unofficially. Go to a performance, I mean, not me personally, but go to a game, sports game. I honestly,
Yeah, yeah, you look,
unless it's British football, that doesn't interest me
you're like,
at
I'm not
all.
doing that at
I'm
all.
not doing that. No, but it's good for meeting people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's get out there, do the things that are just a bit outside of your comfort zone. I'm sure I don't know if this is in the Shonda book, but they talk about this a lot in terms of being told no really toughens you up, and starting with small things like asking the barista at Starbucks if you can have a
Yeah.
free coffee, right? That's the
Yeah.
classic example. I've personally never done that one,
I've
but
never done that. I
no.
never do that because then I'm like, I don't want them to feel bad if I say they're like, I have to tell you no, but I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only way I would do that is if I told them I'm straight up, I'm doing this because I read a book about being told no. So I'm going to
Right.
ask you for a free coffee and you're going to tell me no. Okay?
Yeah.
And action. That would
Yeah.
be
Or I have to
that
tell
would
them
be
after, like, this was just a prank, like,
yeah.
well, not a prank, but this is a social experiment, like,
Social experiment. Yeah.
yeah.
But what if they did give you the free coffee though? What
Then
if you
that,
just caught
I
them on a
mean,
good day and they said, "Yeah, sure, have a muffin as well."
look, then you get free food, so
I think that would put me in the mood to just keep asking you for everything that day.
exactly.
I would just go all out. I mean, ride
Yeah.
that wave. Can I have a free lottery ticket, please? No, I like your advice there. It's put yourself out there. Just get a bit outside your comfort zone to start with. See how it feels. I really liked what you said about you needed to almost be more intentional with your networking. You want to try and get to one event per month.
Mhm.
Um, I am obsessed with setting goals that have actual metrics so I can track my progress. So at the beginning of this year, I thought, what does that look like with networking? Because I know networking is important. And I just came up with sort of an arbitrary goal that I would add 12 influential people from this industry to my personal network this year. I thought I can average one per month. That sounds about right. So here we are. We're in November, and I've got 9. So I'm a bit behind. I need to have a really productive end of November, early
Yeah.
December. But 2 of them have been extremely influential this year, and they've helped me to actually land deals. And I would not have met those people if
Mhm.
in my mind I wasn't thinking, I've got to hit my goal of 12 new people this year.
Yeah.
That goal has given me the energy to go to more events, more networking events, talk to more people, because I don't like not hitting my goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I love like checking off a box. So I
Oh,
always like put like
it's
make a
so
list
good.
just so I can
You
check it
you
off.
you mentioned spreadsheets earlier, and I was like, this is my girl.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
spreadsheets for the
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many spreadsheets. I have to have a spreadsheet to organize the spreadsheets. It's crazy time. Um, I love what we've talked about here. I think we've done a really good job of sort of exploring this subject of doing it cringe. Is there anything that I haven't asked you? Anything about this subject that you would like to say as a final message to the listeners? That doesn't have to be. I don't want to put pressure on you, but I don't want to
Okay.
leave you having that feeling of, oh man, I didn't talk about this.
hmm Um, I'd say uh I think you should just write. Like that's my new mantra. Like I got it tattooed to just write because I think you get all these no's and it makes you like, at least for me, like it really affected my ability and desire to do screenwriting. Like I stopped for like half of the year, like for this year. Like I didn't write anything new for the first 6 months of the year just because I was like, I was like, I can't handle it anymore kind of thing. And then I realized like I went to some like plays and like watched TV shows and stuff like that. And I was like, I like to write. Like I'm still a writer. Like you have to find your joy. And I think the only way to find and keep your joy is to just like keep writing. And whether that's screenwriting or like writing plays or writing books or writing short stories, like just keep that uh muscle active in any kind of way possible. And eventually like that's like you'll get a bunch of no's, but as long as you keep telling yourself yes, you're still a writer, like I think you're gonna make it, like you'll be set.
Yeah, yeah.
So
As I
yeah.
said, I did sales for a long time. One of the things that you get drilled into you when you do sales is for every no, for every, let's say for every 19, every 100 people you speak to, there's 99 no's and there's one yes. And you're just trying to get to the next yes. So every no is a step forward
Yeah.
because you're one step closer to that next yes. That stuck with me. I've heard it said in other ways. Like if you're climbing a mountain and there's an obstacle, you can use
Yeah.
whichever metaphor you want, but there is a way of looking at it that it's literally true. Every time you hear no, you're a step closer to hearing yes.
Yeah.
So just keep
Okay.
writing. If they say you got to be in the right place at the right time. Be in lots of places, lots of times. That
Yeah.
would that would
Multiple
increase your
times
odds.
over and
Yeah,
over again. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, just play
Yeah.
the numbers here, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Zoe, this has been super fantastic conversation. Loved this, and I think we've given the listeners some real takeaways here. Where can people go if they want to follow you, learn more about you? Where can we send them?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's at sincerely underscore Zoe underscore. I post about my writing things as well as theater and musicals. So you can definitely check me out there.
I will definitely be following you, and yes, we will include that link in the description. Thank you so much again for your time today. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, take care. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Right in the Head podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You know you want to. It's a great zero-cost way to support the mission we are on here at Right in the Head to share wellness information with the screenwriting community. If you want to go ahead and leave us a comment as well, it will please the YouTube algorithm. Therefore, this content will get shown to more screenwriters around the world. Finally, go ahead and click on the videos being suggested up here, maybe down here, depends on the end plate, and we will see you there. Wow, this is awkward.